Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com. On the last day of last year, I did a reading for the following year, for this current year, just to see how things will play out. Now, I did it specifically for my country, and I thought it would be interesting to do that again this year. The reason I thought it would be, and I think I've probably done it every year, I don't know, I think instinctively I always do an end of year reading for the following year. But I think last year was maybe the first time I actually committed it to a video and then shared it. And the thing that was interesting about last year's video, and I'll link it down below for those of you who might be interested in seeing it, it really stuck with me because certain things were revealed. I didn't discuss all of them in the course of the video because I thought I thought something bad might happen to somebody, and I didn't want to share that information or put that out there. But I kept it in the back of my mind, and as the year played out, by around June or July, the key features of that reading started to play out. And boy, oh boy, it was something because the reading kind of played out. The points in the reading were laid bare. It didn't end up, I didn't know the outcome, and the outcome wasn't what I expected. But I thought it was very interesting that indeed features of the reading played out. So I thought I would do the same thing today for this coming new year. Now, for those of you who may have watched Masha's Top Tarot Trumps end of the year party, she featured 9 of us who participated in her tarot challenge, and every 2 weeks we focused on a tarot triumph card and gave a handful of our favorites that we wanted to feature. And one of the decks that I featured in that challenge was the Erenberg Tarot. Now, I didn't use the Erenberg Tarot it didn't pop up the most frequently in my Top Tarot Triumph videos, but it was one of the decks that popped up quite a bit. And as it is a modern deck, I just thought it was interesting that I chose it as much as I did. And I thought, what the heck? I would use a modern deck for this end of year read. Well, it's for the new year. It's not an end of year read. It's from the perspective of this side of the year, to see what things us as Americans need to consider, opportunities to take advantage of, and things to be wary of, and the things to concern ourselves with. I think, and I am specifically focusing on the U.S. Now, the Erenberg Tarot was created in 2023 by Steve Erenberg, and it's published by U.S. Game Systems, Inc. Let me go into my meditative place because I surely want a thoughtful and meaningful understanding of what the cards will share. And I'll do my very best to bring a thoughtful analysis of the key points for this coming year for us as Americans and for the rest of the world who may have an interest in what we as Americans are up to. And this deck is slightly oversized, so I have a little bit of concern that I can get all the cards. I'm going to do my signature spread, so I have a little bit of concern that I'll be able to get all the cards in view, but I'll do my best. Oh, the Wheel of Fortune. Change. Could be change of luck for better or worse. Page of Swords. The page is, traditionally it could mean news, information, but it could also mean doing one's bidding, or, an individual who is attending to the needs of a higher ranking individual. I'm just giving my first impressions as I lay each of the cards, and then we'll give a more thorough, thoughtful analysis of the entire thing. So we have 2 swords, so we have another sword. Decisions, conflicts. And the quint for this would be 12, which would be the Hanged Man. Another court card, King of Wands. Fiery tempered individual. 5 coins, front and center of the original tableau of 9, we have 5 coins. Now, of course, because this deck is in the tradition of Rider-Waite-Smith, I won't be able to, I can't help but interpret the cards from that perspective. So, it's sort of a sad card to have front and center, isn't it? 10 coins. More uplifting. Oh, another court card. Queen of Cups. More temperate feel, woman. Plus the Suit of Cups, being more of a soothing thing. 3 swords. Okay, we don't have the traditional 3 of Swords Rider-Waite-Smith depiction. However, we do get the idea that it's a stick pin with a tear. So there is some regret portrayed in this image. Final card of the original tableau of 9 is Temperance. It could be a need to keep things under control. It is a virtue. We see a predominant feature of the wings of an angel. And the need to dilute or to keep something tempered or in check. I will go off camera to pull the quint cards, and I'll discuss those when I come back. And the overall quint card for the year, the gist of the year, ends with the Fool card. Now, this particular rendition of the Fool card I think is interesting, since we have at least three court cards, right? This is a traditional court jester, right? The fool who appears at court. So we have a fool who appears at court with multiple court figures, which I think is kind of interesting. So let's look at, I'm going to interpret this deck as it was intended using Rider-Waite-Smith tradition. However, some cards may not lend themselves or may be ambiguous, and I could use other interpretations to interpret it. Now, I'm struck initially, as I mentioned, as it being a court gesture, and then there being at least 3 court cards in this read. So the fool at court, take that for what it's worth. The Fool card could be taking risks, could be taking calculated risks, could be taking foolish risks, could be someone who has nothing to lose and everything to gain. So throw it against the wall and see what sticks, kind of thing. We see the Harlequin backs of the cards repeated in this card. They put the 0 on this card. So does it mean that the end of the year will amount to 0? at the end of next year, not this year, but the end of the year that this is for would be 2025. Really interesting. Front and center of the original tableau of 9. I mentioned it as I laid it. We have lacking soul, lacking, here we're so close to a church and yet it's so far away as far as salvation or as far as hope goes. And yet we have the hope card as one of the quintessential cards, one of the prominent cards of the read, which for me, the star card can mean a few things. It can mean eternity. It could be lasting effects, right? It could also be hope. It could also be wishes, wish fulfillment. Of course, the elephant in the room is the devil card. And I want to analyze the row it appears in, okay? Because the devil appears in this row. He also happens to be in alignment with the Fool. And don't we have the same view from both of their faces? Just their eyes and their headpiece. And in place of the harlequin backs, we have the bat wings of the devil. Okay, well, the first card in this row is a person in position of power, a fiery tempered individual. Whenever I do readings and, for example, the Knight of Batons or the Knight of Wands might pop up and a young woman is interested in, his personality or for love interest, I would say, yeah, stay away from him. Now, this is not the knight, this is a king. So this is an individual who has a storied past. He may be capable of overcoming his past, but it's still there. And what you're capable of once, what you're capable of once, you're capable of twice. Now, none of us want to be judged on individual things that we might have in our past that we'd rather keep under wraps. But if there's a few of the same thing, then it's of concern. But we have an individual who has a position of power, a position of authority, who has a colorful past. Front and center, there's some type of depraved, some kind of soulless, heartbreaking, we have accomplishment on this end and accomplishment on this end, the wealth of a healthy estate, an elder who's accomplished much, and has a fine home. But in between, what had to be done? What had to be done? And at what cost? I'm hopeful that the last card prior to the Fool card is the Star card. As I mentioned before, it gives us hope. And I'm going to look to this row for who or what will bring us hope, what will bring us salvation. Okay, a woman, figures or a woman's touch, or, there could be a female politician in the mix who, like temperance, tempers a fiery individual. She falls right under the king of fire. She's the queen of water, right? The queen of cups. So will it take a woman to bring hope, to temper? When I first pulled this card, I said there will be a need to temper something, to dilute the effects of something that will bring us the best hope, the best chance for hope. Will it be a woman in that capacity? And in between these two, I have to read this as is intended. I'm reading the deck in this case. There's some regret or some it won't be without regret. That there will be some regret, but ultimately there's hope. And the top row, as I mentioned, we have change of dynamic, a sudden change. Followed by 2 swords, right? A page is either messages coming in or someone who does somebody else's footwork, right? So I would say sharp and sudden changes, because we have the Wheel of Fortune, being the opening card, and cards of knives, right? Cards of conflict, cards that show action. So the year, I guess, will start with some painful changes. Maybe they won't be painful, but this card suggests that there will be consequences early on. These cards suggest power, strength, but at a cost. No soul behind the accomplishment. And unfortunately, this is the end cap for that row. So it could be overindulgence. If we look at it in one way, the Devil card can mean overindulgence. It could also mean evil. And then this being the cap for the whole spread, but of that row, it appears. And the repetition of the eyes facing us like that, and the headpiece of each individual is straight. And here too, we have it here too, to some degree, not as much. But maybe we have to take care of the vision of the people in power, that they aren't reckless, and that they act with heart and soul. Whatever we have in our ability to temper that, remember we have the Temperance card, would be in, if there's any other elections in the course of the year, to use our power there. I think, sometimes some elections are more important than others, and in some we give our power away when we don't vote, And then if we don't vote carefully, we have to sometimes be careful what we wish for, right? And I think these are the key points that I think I'm going to be looking at in the course of this year. See how they play out. Our salvation seems to be tempering something. Maybe it'll be a woman in the form of a woman. Tempering a condition. We have to watch out for the individuals in power who have the most, who have accomplished the most. I mean, we're talking about a successful and content, rich life, person in power, but the path between those 2 points is bleak. And this is a sober, is a sober thing to have appear in this row. It's not giving me the warm and fuzzy feelings. And as this card completes this row, mimicking the vision, right? Almost chilling. And then the top row, as I mentioned, sudden, swift changes, consequences, there will be consequences. In this particular hanged man, I don't see an enlightened one, and I don't see a sacrificial lamb or anything like that. I'm reminded of consequences. So I'm interpreting the deck, and in this case, even though it's based on Rider-Waite-Smith, I'm not seeing those notes of sacrifice or of this card being, a card of enlightenment. It's more of the down and dirty old school kind of hangman. His toes are kind of gnarly over here. So there's a price to be paid. So the year will start out, I guess, with swift actions that will have consequences. Overall, by the end of next year, 2025, I don't know how we'll be seen by the rest of the world. The quintessential card is, the Fool card. And I'd feel a lot better if it wasn't defining this row. But in the last reading, on the last day of last year, I think that the Star card featured prominently as one of the, I think it did, if I recall. I think it featured as one of the quintessential cards, which gave hope. And so I am going to conclude that despite whatever happens, there will be hope by the end of the year, and it will be brought on by someone tempering this energy, subduing not subduing, but perhaps acknowledging the suffering, right? Acknowledging the suffering and tempering toxic effects that will bring hope. I don't know how the year is going to play out. I don't know what the items are, the issues that will happen, right? I'm just interpreting cards and things to look for in the course of the year. And, as I mentioned, let me flip the camera. The things that I noticed in last year's reading didn't start playing out until June or July. So, now this spread sort of shows things happening quickly. So there being like a quickness in the beginning of changes, but almost immediately seeing consequences for those changes. Then being sucked into a dark arena. Even if there's accomplishment, and even if there's success for the country, we sort of have to keep in mind at what expense. Okay, at what expense. So look for that as well. But that there's hope, because the final row ends with hope, and hope being the result of temperament of, or, you know, it's these two cards flank the human condition of suffering, right? So these two cards flank that, and it will be brought about, you know, tempering the effects of toxicity. That's what I got. Well, I'll tell you what, no matter where you're from, I wish you a very fun New Year's Eve. We're spending it this evening with one of our grandbabies. She'll be sleeping over at Grandma and Pop-Pop's because her parents have plans and want to have their own time. So we benefit by having one of our babies spend the night. And we should, and I hope everyone, whatever you're doing tonight, have a safe evening. Try your best, you know, to stay off the roads, especially if you're imbibing. And be cautious. You know, it's a good time. It's the best time of year to stay home, really. What we do is we enjoy Andy and Anderson every year. Since they've been on the air, we watch them at the end of the year, and they're a lot of fun. So for any of you who might be doing that, we'll be along with you watching it with the grandbaby. Hopefully she'll be asleep between us. Whenever grandbabies sleep over, we tend to have them sleep with us, you know, because it's just not the same to visit Grandmama Pop-Pop without, like, sleeping with us, you know. And we overindulge them, let them watch cartoons or whatever it is they want to watch all night. But hopefully she'll be sleeping when we pop on Anderson and Andy. But at any rate, Happy New Year, everyone. And thank you for this wonderful ride that you've shared with me in the course of several years. I've been doing this since 2016. Doing videos since 2016. I've been doing tarot since 1975 or 76. I can never remember what year. And I wish you the best of everything. Peace, stay well, be kind, and do no harm.